It's just loading. Just loading. Alright.
Are we
Alright.
live?
We are live. We are live.
Am I live with the flooded basement?
Yes, indeed. And on Flooded Cinema, episode 14. Wow. Must be such a privilege
No.
for you.
Yes, man. I'm a lowly Italian, and you brought me on as a diversity hire, so
I know. Well, I,
I'm
I needed your help to discuss the quintessential Italian film, Super Mario Bros.
so true.
Yeah, so normally we'd put on one good movie and one meme movie, and today we did something special and we did two really excellent movies. So get prepared. Mario Bros. And then also Evolution, which is a comedy. I think I've the only person that's heard of it. Had you heard of it before?
No, I actually ended up enjoying it though. Did you end up enjoying Mario though?
Yes, yes. I would say overall, both these movies, like when you go on the Wikipedia, I mean, obviously Mario Bros. Has a reputation for being a bad movie, and then Evolution had, middling to bad reviews. But, the hindsight of, 30 or 20 years, when you compare it to, a lot of modern blockbusters and just how much more formulaic and boring they are, these movies just, they feel like they're so refreshing to watch. And I think Mario Bros is unironically good. Like it's like a good fun adventure movie. Like I don't understand why it was so hated on, honestly.
I just I actually just found out about this yesterday. David Snyder, who worked on the original Blade Runner, actually worked on this movie. He helped because they filmed it in like a cement factory. He helped with the sets and everything, which is why it looks that way.
Ah. Um yeah, we'll get right into it. We'll discuss Mario Bros. And I got, for the occasion, since we're discussing a Nintendo property, I got a Japanese beer, so I'm just gonna open that up right now. Wow.
Nice.
How's that? This is like a radio play. Mario Bros. So, I'd never actually watched it before, and we were initially going to do Mario Bros. And another movie to keep a plumbing theme, but the other movie wasn't very good, or was kind of boring, so we changed it up, and now today we're debunking evolution is the theme of today.
Indeed.
And so, to start us off, we're going to be talking about the Mario Bros. Super Mario Bros. Film, or is it just called Mario Bros?
It's Super Mario
It is
Bros.
Super Mario Bros. Good. That's what I have in the title. Okay. Um, and this is quite the star-studded film, surprisingly so.
Yeah,
Um,
well, if we're gonna talk about the cast first, if I may,
Go ahead.
talk about. So initially, Tom Hanks was considered for Luigi, but like he was dropped from consideration because of bad box office performances. And Bob Hoskins, like they rewrote the script multiple times just to get him on board because he thought it was like horrible initially. And Danny DeVito was offered the role of Mario, and the director and Michael Keaton and Arnold, who turned down the role of Bowser for this movie.
Wow. Really? Wow. You've got all the trivia. This is great. I don't have to do any work. The guest just has all the info.
Yeah, unfortunately, while Bob Hoskins' son is a fan of this movie, I think Bob Hoskins himself almost drowned on set. He broke his finger. He got electrocuted. He almost drowned. This was his least favorite film and his like biggest regret in his entire career.
uh, yeah. I mean, and that's the crazy thing is everyone gives actually like pretty good performance. You know.
Yeah,
Um, I guess we should just talk about like the whole idea of it. So you were telling me about this is basically Nintendo. So this was back in the 80s and the 90s when they was sort of they weren't necessarily their brand wasn't like explicitly as family friendly as it is today. And I guess they wanted to just see like, oh, what would happen if we gave the rights of this to an American studio? Let's see what would happen.
yeah,
Um,
that's exactly what. what happened. Roland Joff went to Nintendo, pitched. The way he got the rights, part of his pitch was, well, you can have creative control, and they said no, we don't want it. Like the Mario brand is strong enough where we can experiment and do like other things with it, and that was pretty interesting.
Yeah. And yeah, and it turned out as a very weird film. And then you go on. You continue to tell the story about the production. You know more about it.
Oh, all right. So there's multiple versions of the screenplay. Initially, the very first one was a Rain Man-esque road trip, and it was actually written by Barry Morrow, who, or I don't know how to pronounce his name, who wrote Rain Man. That was the first script, but it was seen as too dramatic and serious, and it lacked comedy and fun. The second was like a proto Shrek. It was a subversion of fairy tales, but the director Greg Beeman, his latest film flopped, and he was fired from the project. And then the final director, the final directing team, Rocky Morton and Annabelle Jankel, who were married at the time, actually, Joff met them in Rome, Italian moment, and asked them to direct the project. And at the time, the film was meant to be a prequel to the games. They envisioned like this because they were given complete creative control. They envisioned this as a prequel to the games, and they brought on Dick Clement and Ian LaFrance as screenwriters who, ironically, were meant to make this game. They were brought on to make it more adult, and unironically, this is the term used, feminist in tone, because Princess Daisy, Lena, and Bertha were given expanded roles compared to the original script, which, if you, by today's standards, if you watch this movie, it doesn't feel like that's a very strange way to describe it, like in comparison to how it is in 1993.
It is funny, like the notion of feminist in the 90s means you have a female character that doesn't have her tits out the whole time, I guess, and that's like progressive or something. I don't even know how to do, or she's like semi-smart.
Yeah, and essentially, they finished the script or whatever, and around 2 weeks before shooting, Disney bought out the rights to it and immediately ordered rewrites because the sets were already finished. By the way, the Blade Runner-esque sets were already finished, and they didn't fit in the rewrites. But they felt like the film would go over budget and it wasn't family friendly enough. So Bob Hoskins, John Leguizamo, what's his name? Leguiano.
You're the one that should be able to say it. Leguizamo.
Leguizamo. Everyone, all of the cast showed up to set, and they essentially rewrote on the set. They were rewriting the entire film like while they were filming, and the directors were locked out of the editing room. Disney made them edit with analog. They made them edit it in an analog format as opposed to a digital format, which they wanted, and which stunted the progression of the film. Like, it made it hard to get it out on time. Initially, Dennis Hopper was only scheduled for 5 weeks, and he stayed for 17. Dennis Hopper and Bob Hoskins both hated the directing couple, and they called them disparaging things. Obviously, I can't repeat them because I got to be optical. And essentially, the directors wanted to leave when they were told that the movie was going to be rewritten on set, but decided to stay for the cast, who ended up hating them. So that's pretty ironic.
Wow.
And let me see if I have anything else. Miyamoto obviously criticized the film for focusing too much on gaming not being a film, which is, it didn't, there was really only a few references to the games, like the bombs and the little biting bullet things. Like, other than that, this is a very original story. And that's pretty much the beginning. That's the story of how Mario came to be. Oh, one more thing. Goombas were not like Toad and all of them. Their roles were expanded because they were very impressed with the final designs of them. They were meant to have smaller roles. And Yoshi impressed the Jurassic Park cast, or the people that were making Jurassic Park were impressed by Yoshi, and Jurassic Park came out 2 weeks after this film and completely tanked the box office earnings of this film. So that's very interesting that Jurassic Park completely crushed this film, but they did praise Yoshi in the film.
Yeah. Um,
And
Go ahead. Go ahead.
the the sets were meant to look like New York City. If you're walking through New York City on psychedelics, that's the last thing I have.
Ah, okay, okay. Um, and that sort of, I think, sets the scene for how the movie, yeah, ended up very well. But honestly, it didn't feel, um, it didn't really feel like there was that much production just problems watching the film. Because the film, the plot is extremely dumb, but it's coherent. The acting is all good. Dennis Hopper is great. Bob Hoskins is great. Um, the effects are all amazing. Like you can tell that the pre-production was that a lot of effort went into it because the sets are great. The effects are all excellent. And the structure roughly of the film, like the narrative, I don't know how much got changed from the original script, but it's a
Yeah,
perfectly sound plot and narrative.
it looks completely coherent, and then you watch the extended cut, which came out this year, and it was noticeably edited, not to a large degree, but the mafia had a larger role. Like you in the at the beginning of the film, when Mario loses the plumbing job at the Riverfront
Oh,
Cafe for
the
the
skip.
dishwasher.
Yeah.
Yeah, essentially the mafia is swindling the cafe out of money, but the cafe is too afraid of the mafia to let Mario like take the job. And there is a
Uh,
censored scene where Bowser kills one of his technicians and turns him into slime. Like he explicitly murders him. And there's a rap scene with Iggy and Spike, which are Bowser's cousins.
oh
It's
yeah,
a
yeah.
classical liberal style rap where they like denounce his authoritarianism. And there's lewd dancing in the extended cut, which is very strange considering it's a kids' film. And the last thing is the ending is kind of extended because there's an unfinished version of a celebration scene with like like how after you beat a level in Mario they start playing the
Yeah.
music. They have that like little ending where you see
Uh,
everyone in the slums celebrating the death of Bowser essentially, and
okay,
everyone's
okay.
dancing and everything. So it wasn't edited to a large degree, but if you watch the extended cut, it is distinct enough.
Mm. Now, if you're gonna watch this movie, which version would you recommend as the person that saw both?
That's it's like asking which version of Blade Runner would you want to watch. I think you have to, if you want to get the full experience, you kind of have to watch both of them because the extended cut is not finished.
Yeah.
It's they did the best that they could to edit everything well, but they just didn't have the extended cut was actually a VHS tape they found in a locker, which originally belonged to Joff, who was like the producer of the film, who got the film
Okay.
greenlit. So it's not like it's I appreciate it, but it's not like a coherent film in terms of editing, and
Okay.
I would recommend viewing both. I think the extended film is a passion project that's very good project, but it's just not a complete like coherent project. So I would recommend
Okay.
watching both.
Okay. There we go. Excellent. Um, I suppose let's get into the movie. So you'd seen it before, I guess.
Yeah, actually, the first time I watched it on Disney Channel when I was around 3 or 4, and I thought it was like the coolest thing ever. And I got my mom to rent it for me on VHS, and I still thought it was the coolest thing ever after I watched it.
It was on Disney Channel. Wow, that's so weird to think. I guess they own
Well,
it, but still, you know.
yeah,
Um, yeah. So I think I already said I'd never watched it before, um, until like a few days ago. And really, yeah, I don't understand its reputation for being like that bad because really it's just sort of I mean you can sort of tell obviously but based on the sets and the costumes etc that they were maybe originally intending for either a PG-13 or an R rating, and then they basically it got nerfed to G. I think like a PG-13 version of this is probably would have been perfect. because then you would
I
have
agree.
you would R is ridiculous. You don't need an R Mario movie, but a PG-13, couple racier jokes, bit more violence here and there, whatever. It would have been perfect.
The only thing I would remove is the lewd dancing. Like there is a
Yeah.
reference to pornography, like Koopa Kinoplex, which is like Bowser's movie theater with pornography in it, which is very strange considering this is in the final version of
Yeah,
the
it's in
film.
the
This is not.
theatrical cut. Yeah.
Yeah, but they cut out the lewd dancing, which was good in my opinion.
Yeah. How long was the lewd dancing scene?
It was like around 2 minutes, and it's actually funny because Koopa's cousins they complain about the women in their world, and Mario says, "This is your world. Do something about it." Like that, it was a very base moment.
um. Yeah. Okay. Let's just get into the plot, I suppose. So we open up with basically Bob Hoskins explaining sort of the world of the film, and pretty much it's when supposedly when the alleged asteroid hit the Earth 65 million years ago or whatever, it created two parallel universes. One where all the dinosaurs got wiped out, and then one where they survived. Is that's the idea, right? Have I got that correct?
Essentially, that's what I extrapolated from it. There's two parallel universes, and the surviving dinosaurs went to the other one, and the mammals, as Bowser calls them, are in the main one. There's only like one city in the dinosaur universe, and like we or the mammals inherited like the rest of the world, the universe, the dimension that's like large.
Yeah. Um, and so the idea is that all the quote unquote people we see in this like dinosaur dimension are people that evolved from dinosaurs or like reptiles, as opposed to in our universe where quote unquote we evolved from mammals,
Monkeys.
yeah, monkeys or whatever.
Yeah,
Um,
so the humans in the film evolved from monkeys, and Bowser is a Tyrannosaurus Rex. He's the evolution of a Tyrannosaurus Rex, if I recall correctly.
yeah, yeah, that's right. Um, I'm trying to remember. So what? So we open up with this, yeah, explanation. There's a bit of like 8-bit or 16-bit or whatever you want to call it, graphics, and then you've got the bit of the Mario music, which is a nice little touch. And then we cut to like a woman putting like an egg out the front of a nunnery.
Yeah,
Yeah,
a convent,
yeah.
and they cross themselves, and then the egg hatches.
And yeah, and then what do we have? And then we
And
cut to our heroes. Or what else happens?
oh, and whoever brings Daisy to the nunnery is presumably killed by Bowser.
Yes, yes. Um, I can't think of Dennis Hopper as Bowser. In my head, he's just Dennis Hopper. When I was watching the
Yeah,
movie, at no point I'm like, oh, this is Bowser. Just because of the portrayal is just he's basically sort of doing a weirder version of his character from this David Lynch film, which is
I
sort
think
of
it
weird to
works
say.
though.
Oh yeah, he's possibly my favorite part of the movie is Dennis Hopper's performance for sure. Um, yeah, he is really. I mean, I guess he wasn't committed. I guess he hated it, but it just works. Or whatever. He's just ridiculous, sort of over the top villain. And yeah, that's why I wish it was PG-13 and we could have given him more scenes of doing nefarious things, because he doesn't actually do anything that evil on screen.
Yeah, well, in the extended cut, he actually kills someone, but not in the theatrical
Yeah,
version.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, and then I think at this point we meet Bob Hoskins as Mario and John Leguizamo as Luigi. And Luigi's watching this like, what would you call it? This sort of X Files type, or not X Files, but what would you call it? It's one of those
Well, I
like
would
weird History Channel documentary things about aliens or other dimensions.
Yeah, he's eating peanuts and he's watching the X Files.
um, and I think they're both good as their characters. I don't think they get as much to do, obviously, as Dennis Hopper in terms of the range and what they're doing. They're just basically playing sort of this like kiddie version stereotype of New York Italians. Is that a fair way to put
Yeah,
it?
I would agree with that. I think the characters are really charming, but because Mario and Luigi, like in the actual Nintendo lore, don't have that much like lore, I felt like it was good enough. Like I didn't have a huge problem with them.
Yeah, I thought John Leguizamo was particularly. I liked his yeah, Luigi, and I really liked their relationship as. So were they technically brothers, or like what was their actual relationship? It was I.
So, Mario is Luigi's older brother, and I think this is ref. Well, I should I talk about what happens later in the film, or should we
Yeah,
just
yeah,
stick
whatever.
to?
It's fine. It's fine. We can jump around a
Oh,
bit.
okay. Okay, so later in the film, like towards the end, when they're like clogging the pipes, he Mario references his father or grandfather. So Mario is genetically like Luigi's brother, but Luigi presumably doesn't have any like connection with Mario's father. Like he died beforehand. So
Okay.
Mario raised Luigi, and Luigi calls
Okay.
Mario his mother.
That's all right. That's all right. And their relationship is really good. And I really like. It feels, as organic as you could sort of imagine this sort of a very muddy film could be, I guess.
There's actually a good reason for that. Bob Hoskins and John would get like drunk off vodka before shooting because they hated the film.
But yeah, they're great together. Um, all right, we'll keep going, and as we come up to other characters, we can discuss them. And then I think they go off to a plumbing job, but then they aren't allowed to actually do the job because Scapelli, and it's not in the theatrical cut. It's not as explicit that he is like mobbed up, this Scapelli guy. It's just sort of like he's a bigger business kind of. He's sort of
Yeah,
shown as a
well,
little dodgy, but it's not. I don't know. It's not as explicit, I suppose.
let's be honest. He's Italian and he's making death threats. Like, what else is
True,
it gonna be?
true. And then I think sort of at this point we meet Daisy.
Yes, she's like digging for fossils under the Brooklyn Bridge for the NY University thing.
So she's an archaeologist, um, which is a funny because I don't know all it's a funny depiction of Daisy, I suppose. And there's no Peach in this film, which I thought was strange.
There is like Mario's girlfriend in this film is Pauline from the Donkey Kong game, so it's canonically like it is correct, which is very interesting.
Oh, it's from the Donkey Kong game. Oh.
Yeah, Daniela's middle name is
Oh.
Pauline.
So the original Donkey Kong is trad because they're both Italian. Whereas
True.
the Super Mario Bros, there's race mixing where it's Peach and Mario.
Well, you wanted to be optical, but you just said race mixing, bro.
I'm the host. I can say what I like.
Well, we'll get back to race realism later, but go ahead.
uh, yeah, and Peach she's probably out of the main cast. She's the weakest character just because she is just just completely straight sort of um, you know straight laced sort of character. Doesn't do anything goofy or anything funny, and she's fine. I wouldn't say she's certainly not a bad actress or anything like that. It's just her role is completely serviceable.
Yeah, and it actually was expanded, but this is what a feminist in 1993 would write a role as, which is like very tame.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, by modern standards, you don't even. I mean, I didn't even think. Watching it, I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't have called this a feminist film just because you have a female character that has more than 2 minutes of screen time or something. I don't know.
The one thing I will say though is she is vegetarian, so that was kind of cringe.
I don't even remember that.
Remember when Toad as a Goomba brings her meat and she didn't.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Was it that she's vegetarian or that she didn't want to eat like the lizards or whatever it was?
She said, "I don't eat anything with a face," which implies
Oh,
that
right, right,
she
right.
doesn't eat anything that was alive except for
Uh,
plants. Which, yeah, you get what I mean.
yeah, okay, yeah, that was kind of cringe. Um,
But anyway, Base Capelli comes up and tells her like, "You have to leave because we're doing things here." So
yeah, and he threatens to kill an archaeologist. The thing is, like, what would killing her or like destroying the archaeology site? How would that actually like allow him to continue his work? That doesn't make any
doesn't he
sense.
doesn't he own a construction company?
Yeah, but I guess like he was threatening her to like close down the site as opposed to. But it's like if he killed her or it hurt her, I don't know. It didn't really make sense to me that that would be a feasible mafia plan.
To be, yeah, you're right, but you have to remember he's Italian, so he doesn't think these things through that much.
Because she
So
could just go to the university and say he's, and then that didn't also make sense. Why isn't there any security on this site?
it's
Anyway,
New York. They're not going to protect people with pale complexions, bro. But
moving on.
but
What happens next?
uh,
Oh, now we
Mar-
meet the two other really
Mar-
cool characters.
didn't you weren't you going to say that? Oh, Mario and Luigi. Well, Luigi goes on a date with Daisy, and then they end up going to
Yes.
the Brooklyn Bridge.
Yes. No, I loved the date scene because it's Mario with his GF and then um, Luigi and Daisy. And I thought that was a very wholesome moment, just the four of them like going out, having a nice time together.
And I'll have to say Mario's like a G in this movie. He tells
Yeah,
Luigi what to do, and it works perfectly.
yeah. He's like, yeah, he's an excellent wingman. Like he's a very good older brother slash sort of yeah father figure. Um,
And then Scapelli floods the. They're gonna have like a kiss scene, and then Scapelli floods the area they're in. So
yes, but
they go.
you've neglected to mention. We see these two guys, weird looking guys, stalking first Pauline, so Mario's GF, and then later they come and they're stalking Daisy, and they're like, oh, these humans, blah blah blah, and it's sort of made clear that they're not human, that they're aliens or something, and I love these cousins. They're very
Iggy,
funny. Iggy and what's the other guy's name?
Spike.
Yes, which I
They're
remember from the
actually
game.
they like buy hot dogs and throw the bread away and just like chomp on the sausage.
Yeah, which doesn't make sense because later in the film, when they're in the dinosaur New York or whatever it's called, people are having lizards in bread. So it's like it's not as though they don't know what bread is.
Yeah, that is true.
So unless they are just like they're on keto or something. But uh,
But these dudes like capture like 10 women, and none of them are actually their target. And then they capture Daniela, who's Pauline, and
yeah,
then they. Now we're at the scene where I was talking about, where the Scapelli and his men flood the Brooklyn
yes,
Bridge.
yeah. Um, and then they call up Mario, and Mario comes to help them. And then Mario and Luigi use their plumbing skills to fix the pipes, but then they're knocked out by Iggy and Spike. Yo, what was that noise?
I think that was my phone. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. Um, and then they kidnap Daisy. And then Mario and Luigi wake up and realize Daisy's gone, and they chase after her. And then they come to. So is this the part where Bob Hoskins almost drowned? Like, at what point in the film is he even near water? It must have been this bit.
Yeah, I would assume it's this part of the film, or maybe a cut content from the film.
Um, and pretty much the there's this sort of portal in a rock wall type thing, and they realize they have to jump through, and they have it's similar to reminded me a tiny bit of like Harry Potter with the platform 9 3/4 type thing. A similar situation of having to jump through what doesn't look like a portal but is a portal, um, which is a
Yeah.
funny little moment, which is nice. And then finally we get to um, the Dinosaur Dimension, or whatever it's called.
Yes, and it actually looks exactly like Brooklyn. I don't know what they were. I don't know why they felt out of place. Like that's exactly what I think in my mind when I think Brooklyn.
um, and honestly, the this opening, because it's only like 10 minutes or something. I don't know how long this opening is, but it went by really quick. Like, it doesn't feel slow or anything like that.
Yeah, it's a pretty well-paced opening.
And then yeah, we get to the Dinosaur Dimension, or whatever we're gonna call it. And yeah, the sets are really really good, and they just look like uh they look like they reminded me of if I went to a theme park and there was a section that was like sci-fi section or something. That's what it kind of looked like.
This was filmed in a cement factory, so they had like a lot to work with. It was an abandoned cement factory, so they didn't.
Ah,
It was really easy for them to just build the sets, and like there was already platforms for the cameramen to hop onto.
yeah. Where are we up to? Duh, duh, duh. Oh, and then I think
And
is
then
it Luigi says, "I don't think we're in Brooklyn anymore," or something like that.
yeah, and then I think unless I'm skipping something, they watch Toad get arrested, and then they get arrested.
Yes, they get arrested for anti Cooper sentiments. But actually, I think there's I don't know if this happens just after that or before that. Um, we have Dennis Hopper return back on screen, and he basically just explains the entire plot of the rest of the movie. In
Yeah,
like this like 30-second monologue, which I thought was very funny. He's like, and then I'll get the crystal, and with the crystal, I'll use that to open up the dimension. And that, like, it didn't leave anything as a surprise at all, like what was going to happen. He just literally explains his entire plot in just like summary points in about yeah,
actually,
which
I
is
liked
good.
how it was introduced because Iggy and Spike like f up and they walk up to Bowser. They're like, "We got the girl," and he's like, "Do you have the rock?" And he like screams at them.
Mm, yeah, and
And
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and it's presumed. Well, never mind. This is kind of a spoiler. I'm sorry.
Yeah, go for it.
It's presumed that only Daisy can use the rock because they need Daisy.
Yes, yes, yeah. Um, oh, here we go. All right, so in my note at this point, I wrote the soundtrack is not very good. I didn't think it was very good. It was sort of weird because it didn't fit the film at all. Like, they put like a Disney sort of sweet saccharine soundtrack over the top of what was the production, whereas it could have used I don't know, different sort of music. What I don't know if you took notice of the soundtrack, if you just thought it was whatever, or
Compared to other cyberpunk soundtracks like Blade Runner or Ghost in the Shell, I did think it was weaker than those. So that's like what I took away from it.
I just didn't feel like it fit the film.
Yeah,
It was more the issue that rather than it was necessarily bad or whatever. And you can use like these more classical orchestral sound tracks for sci-fi films. Um, like for instance, in Total Recall, the soundtrack of that isn't like techno stuff or whatever. It is mostly or orchestral, etc. But that fits thematically with what's going on in that film. Whereas with this movie, there is no thematic reason why it should be more classical movie score. It's just sort of Disney must have just said, okay, well, we can't change anything else about the pre-production. Let's use different music. Is what it sort of
Yeah,
felt like.
that makes sense.
That's what I sort of, it felt like that to me, but I could completely be off.
I appreciate your conjecture anyway.
And then, oh, and then they're arrested, and we have the prison set, which I really liked, and like them getting processed and put into the prison.
Then this is where the main Easter egg of the movie comes out, because we find out that their last name is Mario.
Oh,
and initially Miyamoto.
This is the one part of the movie I did not like at all.
Initially Miyamoto was like no, but then he like capitulated and said yes, it's canonical that their last names are Mario.
Wait, it's legit canonical?
Yes.
No way. I assumed that like idiocy had been contained to the film.
I mean, it makes sense because they're the Super Mario brothers. They're not like the Super Luigi brothers. They're not the Super whatever surname brothers.
Wow. Yeah, so you find out his name is Mario and Luigi Mario, and that was one bit where it was too cheesy for me. It was just too stupid. It would why didn't they could have just gone the whole movie and not made a joke about that, or they could have just said, "Oh, it's just Mario," like they didn't need to have the last name. It was ridiculous.
I don't know, man. I thought it was fine. I didn't. It didn't bother me, to be honest.
I don't know why it annoyed me.
But then, yeah. So after that, they get like checked in, and they're getting beat up. And there's a scene where there's like a laser dot on their head, but it just takes a picture of them instead of like killing them.
Yeah, that was good too. I like that. And then they escape. How do they escape? Oh, then it's the Dennis Hopper.
First they meet Bowser. He introduces himself as like Larry Lazard as a lawyer, and then he says some disparaging things about Bowser, and then he asks him where's the Rock.
Yeah.
And then they don't know what he's talking about, so he like beats them up, and then he reveals he's Bowser, and then they escape after that, right?
Yeah, I don't quite remember exactly how they escape.
Yeah, I don't either. They hopped on like the railing on the top, and
okay.
they drew. There's the car scene. Remember, they hopped into the car.
Yeah. And then the car chase was great. Actually, I really liked it, and the car design as well as cool, having like the big engine out the front.
Yeah,
and
I liked it.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing about this movie is like the sets and the pre-production is great. Like, there's not anything to complain about in terms of any of that stuff. That is all genuinely, like, unironically really good. Yeah, and we have this car chase, and then we meet the bit of the fungus as well.
Yeah, and the fungus, it's actually Daisy's father, so it saves them from crashing when they go into the tunnel. Like, it catches them.
Yeah.
And
that was a really cool plot point as well. But we'll get to that. We can discuss that later.
Yeah, then they're wandering around in the desert, and they find Iggy and Spike, who like wreck their car. So they tie them up, and they say, "We're gonna let these dinosaurs eat you if you don't like give us Daisy."
Yes, but we've missed a bit where Bowser evolves his cousins in order to make them smarter.
Oh, that's how they escape. So, actually, in the extended cut, do you remember like at the beginning where Luigi's watching TV and the guy that's saying it's possibly a different dimension, like the guy on TV?
Yeah.
That's the guy that Bowser kills. So in the extended version, after he de-evolves Toad and makes him a Goomba, he de-evolves that guy into slime, literally for sneezing, because Bowser hates germs. It's like a recurring joke.
I thought that was cool. Like a cool trait of his is that he's like a germaphobe. That's just like, I don't know, a nice trait for a villain to have, I suppose. But I don't know if that fits with how I conceive of Bowser when I'm playing like Mario Party.
Yeah, and that's part of actually the scene. The reason why Bowser slips is because there's slime on the floor. So Mario pushes Bowser into the machine, and then I guess, evolves him or some. He does something to him in the machine,
Mm.
and then there's an extended running away scene in the extended cut, but it's not like profound or anything. There's no like
Oh,
new
okay.
lines of dialogue. They just run away.
Oh, okay. Um. Now, what else? Oh, there's another little moment I liked. Is Bowser ordering the pizza?
That there's a payoff in the extended cut too for that. Remind me about that.
For where he like it's like sorry everyone uses like video call sort of in this dinosaur dimension. They have like slightly more advanced technology. Um, so he calls up um the pizza thing, and he says like President Bowser or something like that. And
Yeah,
the
it
pizza
is.
it's just it's just like funny how casual it is, like him ordering the pizza.
And then he orders like dino stuff on the pizza. I'll
Yeah,
just spoil it since
yeah, yeah,
you're
yeah.
fine with jumping around. So in the extended cut, like when Bowser gets de-evolved into slime, the pizza guy throws the pizza box onto the slime and like drives away.
Uh, why would they get rid of that?
It's probably Disney's call. They're like, "Oh, he's dead," but we didn't want people to actually see him die.
Um, yes, and so Iggy and Spike are now evolved to be smarter, apparently. Um,
So race is canonical in Mario. That's pretty interesting.
I found them really funny when they were dumb, and then like when they became smart, they were funny for like that first scene, and then after that, they were like really cringe how they were like wanting to free themselves from Bowser.
Actually, I actually like the extended cut. They're not as cringe just because it expands on like their story. So there's that
Uh,
rap, that like classical liberal rap that's like, oh, he's authoritarian or whatever. But there's also when Mario and Luigi and Iggy and Spike are in the. I don't know if this is in the original version. They're in like, I don't think it is. They're in the garbage truck. They're driving the garbage truck, and they're talking about how Bowser gets elected, and they're like, there's a baseball player Bowser, there's a surgeon Bowser, and then Mario asks, "So you can vote for anyone as long as it's Bowser?" And they're like, "Yeah, that's democracy."
that is not in the original cut.
Oh, it's not. Yeah, I kind of assumed it wasn't because I don't remember it being there. But it develops their characters more in the. I
Okay.
didn't mind the high IQ Iggy and Spike. They're just not as well developed in the
Yeah.
theatrical cut.
Okay. Um, I think the only other character we haven't really mentioned, who we can just sort of slot in here. We don't have to cover every plot point. Is Bowser's GF? What's her
Oh,
name? Prince.
Lena, Lena.
Yes. And is she a character from the games? Like, am I this out of the loop, or is no?
I don't think so. I think she's an original character.
Because I know Iggy and Spike are in the games.
No, she's not. She's an original character, as
Okay,
far as I know.
that's funny. The only original character.
Yeah, but she just gets jealous of Daisy because Bowser doesn't even like Daisy. He just wants to use Daisy for the rock, and she gets jealous.
Yes, yes. He's not even. Yeah, he's not even like. He's 100% like Sigma grindset. Like doesn't care about women at all. Basically.
Chad Valsell.
Chad Volsel Bowser. So true. Um, but I liked. I thought her character was kind of entertaining. She didn't really do anything except for like one minor inconvenience she causes Bowser at one point, and then she just
Well,
immediately gets arrested.
actually, besides the lewd dancing, I like the extended club scene because that's the scene where Lena gets the rock.
Okay.
There's like a sign that says "Plumbers Wanted." It, actually, the one of the my favorite lines from Dennis Hopper is like "Plumber alert!" Like they don't explain anything. Like Iggy and Spike just say the plumbers have the rock, and he's just like plumber alert. So there's like a wanted sign for it says plumbers wanted in the nightclub. It has Mario and Luigi on there, and essentially Iggy and Spike lend Mario and Luigi disco suits or whatever, and they go to the club to get the rock from Big Bertha, who stole the rock very like
Yes.
around when Mario and Luigi got arrested. She stole the rock from
Yes.
Mario because some old lady stole the rock from Mario beforehand, and she stole the rock from the old lady.
Yeah. Yes.
And then so then Mario just like dances with her. It's a very awkward scene. I kind of like the music in the scene, but the scene itself is very awkward.
I think in the
And
in the theatrical cut or whatever, the original cut or whatever we're gonna call it, the dancing wasn't too bad, but I don't know if it like got extended in the
oh
extended cut.
yeah, in the extended cut, there was like lewd dancers. There, women were only wearing like bra and panties, and that was one of the other funny scenes. Iggy and Spike are like, "This is degenerate," and Mario just says, "Do something about it."
So true. Um,
So Mario successfully gets the rock from Bertha, and then like
yeah.
they try to play football with the rock, American football. I'm sorry, they try to play catch with the rock, and eventually Lena gets it,
Yes.
and then Big Bertha helps Mario escape for some
Yes.
reason.
Yes.
I guess he
She.
successfully seduced her, or
Yeah.
whatever.
He had high enough charisma.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
persona
like that.
moment.
Her she was fine as like a secondary character, I suppose. Big Bertha.
Yeah, well, technically this was a feminist character, so I don't even like imagine a feminist writing this character. Like this is empowering to women.
Uh, I don't know. I guess like it's just crazy like watching '90s movies and just where the social consciousness was at that point. It's just
Yeah,
so foreign to now. Like yeah.
and
Anyway.
she gives Mario and Luigi the jet boots, and they escape.
Yes, and I like the jet boots. They're cool.
Yeah, me too.
And what powers them is the bullet bills. If we have any avid Mario people listening, if you're familiar with Bullet Bill, they're the bullet guys.
Yeah, that name escaped me, but that was really cool. The bullet bills and the bombs. Those are like the only real video game references, but they were
Yeah,
really
and
cool.
I liked that. I liked that there were just these two little references. There wasn't um, too much going on there.
Yeah,
Um,
and I think then there's a scene with Lena who tries to kill Daisy, and Yoshi saves Lena, if I recall.
yes, and
All
we
right,
haven't talked about Yoshi. Yoshi is great as well. The effects for Yoshi, I was shocked like how good they were because it was just like maybe like one step down from Jurassic Park, but it was like very impressive. I thought.
it even Jurassic Park people were impressed with Yoshi, so I would say like very impressive for 1993.
Yeah, and especially the Mario Brothers movie. That was the thing going into this movie. I thought it would be the production would be a lot crappier, and I think that's maybe my expectations were so low that going into it I was just impressed with everything.
I, that's probably why Disney was rewrote the script because they're like, oh, these sets are so expensive. We got to save as much money as we can.
Mm. Um, I don't know if we really talked about the Goombas.
Yeah. Oh, actually, the Goombas were like background characters, and they got promoted to second, especially Toad, secondary characters because of how good they looked. Which for that time, I thought they looked pretty good.
They would look good. Like they would look good now. I would say how they look in a '90s movie. They look like if they were in a TV show right now, it would be considered good. Maybe not a movie right now, but in a TV show, modern TV show.
Yeah, like AMC production values.
Exactly. Yeah. Um.
I liked the Goombas, and then I think there's a scene where Daisy like asks Toad for a plate of steamed vegetables, and then
Yes.
Toad saves Daisy, but he gets burnt by the other Goombas.
Yeah. That made me sad, and then she goes and rescues him, but that was okay. Because I thought she was literally just gonna abandon him to like be burning on fire. That's like the
Yeah,
way the scene is framed. That's what it seems like is happening.
nah, Daisy's a good person.
Yeah.
And then
we
right
can.
after that, sorry.
I was just gonna say we can skip ahead, but what are you about to talk about?
Right after that, Iggy and Spike introduce Daisy to her father, who's like the mushroom
Yeah, I was just about. Let's
fungus.
talk about him. Yeah. Um. So the big sort of weird piece of technology that I don't think we fully discussed it is what's the machine called?
The de-evolution machine. I don't know what it's called.
It's just like the evolution machine or something, and basically it's a machine that can, if you put someone inside it, it will either evolve them or de-evolve them based on what you set the machine to.
Yeah, and you can de-evolve people into slime, and that's the minimum. You can evolve people to be high IQ.
Yeah, and so not Peach, Daisy's father was de-evolved back to fungus, and yeah, this is just
I mean, that's a decent way to introduce like the Mushroom Kingdom aspect
yeah,
because they
I
didn't
love
want it.
that. I love that actually. I thought that was a really cool way to do the whole mushroom thing, like make it um not, I don't know what's the word. Yeah, not too
On the
on the nose.
nose.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's a subtle thing, and it actually ties into that it's her father. It's a character. So that was, I thought, was actually a really good piece of writing.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And the design and the like production of what the mushrooms look like and what the fungus looks like is really good, especially in the throne room.
Yeah, and just throughout the city, like I know I'm making fun. That is how like Brooklyn would look in my opinion, but just the mushroom fungus around Brooklyn, it's very charming, I would say.
Yeah, yeah. I like that. Um, I'm just trying to think. What else is there to discuss? What other points of interest are there? Like we don't have to go through every other point of the film. Um,
Um, well, we can just skip to when okay, so long story short, Lena gets the rock and like merges with the worlds. We can like start from there
yeah,
if you
yeah,
want,
yeah.
and
That's good. And this is actually one of my points is, and this is obviously a budget constraint, but it would have been good to see more of Bowser in Brooklyn. Would have been a lot of fun seeing him in New York, like Dennis Hopper as Bowser going around doing stuff. But we have one very memed moment, very funny moment, when he uses his de-evolution gun to shoot Scapelli and turns him into a monkey,
yeah.
and then he goes monkey.
And the funny thing is, like, I was reading fan theories about this. Now the Mario Bros can like because they're 3 months behind on rent. Now they can pay rent because Capelli was the one that was stealing all the jobs.
That's true. That actually worked out well for them.
Yeah, and essentially Bowser just like tries to shoot Mario and he grabs the mushroom once again and like
Yeah,
well, actually that's how Scapelli gets like monkey eyes, right? Like he deflects it with the
yeah,
mushroom.
yeah, 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 yeah. That's right. Um,
And then Luigi and Daisy get the fragment of the rock out of the little place,
yes,
and then everything goes back to normal.
yeah,
And they still have to kill Bowser though, which they do with the de-evolution guns, which Toad gives them.
yeah. And the design of him when he's like that half dinosaur thing for like the brief second was really cool. And I wish we had gotten to see more of that, but obviously I guess Disney cut that back.
The extended version, this is where it would have shined the most because of the throwing pizza on the slime, the celebration at the end. Like they play the Mario music at the end of the level where you
Yeah,
win. It's really good. This would have been this is where it suffered the most because it's just the end of Mario of this movie is just like a race to the finish in my opinion. There's not
yeah,
really too many fan servicey moments and there's a lot of opportunities for them, but they just didn't make the final cut.
yeah. It's crazy actually in retrospect thinking about um, if a movie like this were to be made now, how much more fan servicey. Because there's like no fanfare at all about this movie. There's no.
Actually, they're sorry.
I was just gonna say like you can imagine in There's the one bit where we see them in their costumes, but it's not like the way like modern movies do these fan servicey things. It's always very much. It's like it's overdone. It's always overdone, or it's always so cringe. Like I always think of
Marvel.
Marvel, but also like there's Star Wars prequels and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's
One scene we forgot, if I can interject, that I really liked was when Luigi got the Goombas to dance, and then they just snuck out of the elevator.
That scene was great. That is actually one of the best. That's like weird to say, but that is one of the best scenes in the movie because it's and that's what I like about Luigi as a character in this movie is like he's silly, he's goofy, but he's not like an idiot. He's not a full on idiot. Like he can work things out. He's like smart enough. He's just very yeah, child, I don't know what the word is, childish sometimes.
Yeah.
But that's a really funny scene. Like they faintly hear the elevator music, and then so because all these Goombas are like low IQ, sort of just like follow whatever someone tells them to do. He like psyops them into all dancing, which is great. And
yeah, pretty much.
The elevator door opens, and there's another Goomba there. He's like, "What is going on?"
And there's actually like in the extended cut, this solves a continuity error because they leave the jet boots in the elevator because for whatever reason, plot convenience. But that's not in the theatrical cut.
Yeah, I wondered where the jump boots went. Anyway, whatever.
But at the end of the film, we see the Marios on TV, and they're referred to as the Super Mario Brothers by the announcer. And then there's sequel bait, and Daisy like comes to their apartment and says she needs their help. And then there's a post-credit scene where there's two Japanese businessmen offering Iggy and Spike a role in a movie, or proposing a role in the movie, which is kind of a reference to the like pre-production of this film. But before we wrap this up, I was just going to say, because you mentioned it, there's actually a reboot planned for next year of this, so I wonder how it's going to be.
You're kidding me.
No, I'm not.
Have they announced any of the actors?
No.
Bro. Well, we've got to cover it when it comes out.
Yeah, have me back on for that one.
Super Mario Bros. 2022. What?
I'm sorry for monopolizing the talking, though. Did you have any final thoughts?
No. You didn't Well, I mean, we had discussed that we would both watch the theatrical and the extended cut, but due to my the fact that I'm not 100% a neat as much as I'd like to be, I couldn't find the time to watch like 3 hours of Mario Bros. Unfortunately. So. Is there anything else I wanted to say? Let me have a look at my notes. Oh yeah, there's the 9/11 reference.
Oh yes.
Where they vaporize the towers.
Yeah, and like when Bowser goes into the real world, they're also vaporizing the real world, so that's very strange.
Yeah.
That's just another esoteric thing, like that was planned ahead of time, I suppose.
And what else? The ending I did not like. I didn't like the sequel bait. I thought it was... I mean, maybe they genuinely thought that they would get a second one out of it, but... I feel like they could have ended it differently. Like, what if... How would you have ended this movie? Maybe Luigi stays in the Mushroom Kingdom as well, or something. I don't know. Or maybe...
Yeah, I was going to say that Luigi can go out on his own, and Mario can live in, like... Brooklyn, and because
Pauline,
he could show. Sorry,
you could have had something like Mario complaining at the beginning, like, "Oh, when are you gonna move out?" Like blah blah blah, something like that maybe. And then at the end of the movie, you could have had Mario has like one of those TVs to call people on the phone, like it from the Dinosaur Dimension.
Yeah.
And he at the ending could be him calling Luigi or something.
Yeah, Mario could say, like, now that Scapelli's gone, business is booming, and, like, how are you? And you can cut to Luigi, and, like, you can see him in the Mushroom Kingdom, or whatever that other dimension is.
Yeah. And then Mario could have been like, I had to hire some other guy to help me work. There's so much business. His name is Wario. Something like that. Like they could have. The ending is the weakest part. The movie, the first half of this movie, maybe the first 2/3 are really are genuinely unironically good. The last third is just a little bit incoherent and slow.
I
Uh,
thought with the extended cut, the final scene saves it, but yeah, the theatrical cut, the final third is not up to par with the rest.
and then the ending was just weirdly lazy. They really could have thought of something better than that.
Yeah.
And I think that that's sort of one maybe like there wasn't, not that I'm necessarily complaining about this, but I on one hand I liked the fact that there was at no point was there actually any emotional conflict between Mario and Luigi. Like you'd expect in a movie like this, okay, end of Act 2, you'd have Mario and Luigi being upset or annoyed at each other.
No, actually, there is in the car when Mario says you drive, and in the desert where there's actually more in the extended cut when they're in the
Okay.
desert. Luigi's like, I'm sorry, I fell in love with Daisy. I'm sorry for being a simp, etc. But there's a little bit of it in the theatrical cut, just not to a large degree
Uh,
compared to the extended cut.
yeah. They're like I mean I don't know if I'd call it conflict, but the sort of narrative arc is Mario not believing in like weird things. And what do they say? Trust the fungus,
Yeah,
which is the famous line from this film.
and it like hands Luigi up a bomb.
Yeah. Um,
Just for my final thoughts, I thought it was a very, very enjoyable film. I liked it a lot. It's very unfortunate that Bob Hoskins almost died for my enjoyment, but in terms of personal enjoyment, I'd give it like not in terms of like, in terms of how the film came out, I'd give it like a 7. But in terms of personal enjoyment, I'd give it like an 8.
yeah, I think that's fair. That's very fair. Um, if you haven't seen it, I would highly recommend it. If you like, it's not even. I wouldn't even necessarily call it a so bad it's good movie. In the same way as like The Room or any of these other sort of movies. It's more just like a cheesy '90s movie. Like in retrospect, maybe at the time when it came out, it would have seemed like a ridiculous thing, but in retrospect, it's pretty quaint.
Yeah, it's a bit like I would watch this over any. I know I hate cape shit, but I would still watch this over any cape shit like today, just because it's more enjoyable. It's more charming. I like the
Yes.
cinematography. I am a Blade Runner fan though, so I am biased because the guy that worked on that worked on this, so I did like the sets and everything.
Yeah. It's just it is a good movie. I guess just watching it, I was like, huh, how is this considered? Because I remember people would say, oh, this is the worst movie of all time, but it's not even remotely close. Like it's just a good movie. So yeah, that's I think that's Mario Bros covered.
All right, now we're on to evolution, I guess.
Evolution. All right, I'll take the helm. I'll take the helm here. So Evolution. This was a classic back in the day. I don't know how I got onto it, but for whatever reason, I would always just rent it from the video store, and so I've probably seen this movie. I don't know, countless times. But I haven't watched it in a while, and we were thinking of themes for this double feature today, and so we came up with evolution as the theme, which we didn't really talk about too much from the Mario, but it's there and it's dumb in Mario. It's this weird Pokemon sort of gimmick in there, and it's even more Pokemon here basically. If you know what I mean by that, it's just completely absurd. But this movie follows two community college professors basically discovering an asteroid that has alien life on it, and things sort of go from there. What did you think of this movie?
My very first comment, if I must say, Dr. Allison Reed or Julianne Moore is not that attractive. I'm sorry,
Wow,
flooded.
wow.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just I thought like the
You're
first
such a troll.
the first 10 minutes of this film were kind of like not that interesting to me, but then like it kicked in pretty fast. I think
Yeah,
like when the guy was training to be a firefighter, it was kind of goofy to me, but
yeah,
as soon as they cut to the classroom and they're like they were making fun of the fact they don't believe in the bell curve and like the fact that the standards for grading are so low in academia present day, that was
yeah.
like when it kicked in for me, like that I liked the film. What about you?
Um, it's hard for me to judge because it is nostalgic, so nostalgic. Like I don't know how old I was when I first watched it, but I would have been like 9 or 10, I think, and I've just watched it heaps. But I really like this movie, and rewatching it, it honestly held up maybe more than I was expecting. Um, but yeah, I really like David Duchovny in general, and in this he's very much just playing David Duchovny, just being sarcastic and not saying much, and having a very like he's David Duchovny. I don't know if I would even call him a good actor, but he's just so charismatic that his charisma overcomes the fact that he's not very good at acting a lot of the time.
I haven't seen much that he's in, if like from what I know right now, but maybe I'll remember something. But I thought it was a good casting decision. I liked
Mm.
him and the black nerdy guy in this movie. I thought they carried the movie.
Yeah, and this is another good like friendship male relationship. I thought their relationship was very funny the way that they were sort of um, and this is a community college. We'll keep it because when I hadn't seen it in a while, I thought it was a high school for some reason, but it is a community college, and that sort of makes some of the jokes and things that happen not as weird regarding the what's his character's name? Block.
The cheerleaders.
Yeah. So he's like talking about how he coaches a girls volleyball team, and there's the bit where there's the girl who wants to get the better grade, and he's not like trying to do anything, but she's like clearly hinting at it, and he's just like, you need to study harder. But I thought that was funny, and
Yeah.
then David Duchovny walks in on them.
And if I was gonna relate this, like I really like the relationship between the two main characters. If I were to relate this, it would be with I don't know if you've seen this film, and I would recommend it for a future flooded cinema for a buddy cop film. Blue Streak. Have you seen that movie?
Oh, is that Martin Lawrence?
Yeah. So in that film, the black dude is a cool guy, and the white dude is a nerdy guy. But in this one, the white dude is a cool guy, and the black
Yes,
dude is the nerdy
yes,
guy. But
yes.
that the relationship between these two reminded me of that, and that was my favorite movie when I was a kid. Like,
A Blue Streak. Oh wow.
yeah, my dad actually tricked me into watching that movie because I was like, "This is boring," and then he's like, when we got to the movie theater, he's like, "They're gonna steal a PlayStation 2," and like he tricked me into enjoying the movie, and I really did enjoy it. And that reminded me of the. That's why I like this film because that the relationship between the main characters reminded me of that movie.
Mm. Like they're friends, but they're constantly like making jokes at each other about different things, and it feels very organic, which I really like. And the Orlando Jones, who plays Doctor Block, does a really good job of playing this sort of, he's like an intelligent guy, but he's a bit silly and a bit goofy, and there's lots of, um, he makes lots of funny jokes. Like I love the bit where this is quite far into the film, but they like going down into the elevator, and then he like keeps making fun of David Duchovny for having a crush on the female character, and he's like dancing and stuff like that. So I thought that was good.
Oh, when they're trying to get the sample and he's just like trashing
Yes. Yeah.
the Julianne Moore. That part is hilarious, bro.
Yeah. Um. Uh. Wherever I put my notes. What did I write here? Oh, I just said this reminded me a lot of Ghostbusters.
I can see that. Yeah.
Just in terms of, it's sometimes a similar sense of humor, just in terms of David Duchovny being very dry in like how he talks to people, like with Bill Murray. And then there's also like, instead of a supernatural element, it's like an alien sci-fi element, but it's a similar sort of thing. Um, but
I
let's
was gonna the last.
go ahead.
Sorry.
Go
The
ahead.
last thing I'll say about Mario is one of the scripts was like a Ghostbuster copy, but it got rejected.
Really?
Yeah.
That would not have fit. Maybe now Luigi's Mansion movie. If they could get John Leguizamo back for that, now that would be something.
Yeah.
That would be actually pretty dope. You could have the ghost of Bob Hoskins.
True.
Um. Now, where are we? So we're introduced to these characters. Basically, they're working at the community college. But we open with Sean William Scott, Stifler from American Pie. Um, is he's training to be a fireman, and as he's out in the desert, sort of practicing like burning down a. I thought that was pretty funny. Where he's like pretending to save this dummy, and he's like, "Don't you dare die on me," which it's sort of a done thing now, but I thought it was quite funny.
Yeah.
Um, I think we'll talk about his character later. We'll come back to that. Yeah, so an asteroid hits and it blows up this hut and it blows up his car. Um, and then the next day we see our main two characters, David Duchovny, who I've completely forgotten his name, and Orlando Jones. They're going to investigate this because Orlando Jones is a geologist and he's part of this sort of geological survey thing. And then they get there and they see this weird ooze on the asteroid, and then when they go back and investigate it, they see that there's cells in it, and they're like, "What?" They realize, "Oh, this is alien life. This is crazy." And then they look at it, like a few hours later, and then rather than single-celled organisms, it's multi-celled organisms. So it's, this whatever this thing is quote unquote evolving rapidly, and that's sort of the premise of the film is these alien life forms, are constantly evolving throughout the film, and we get this interesting. Throughout the film, we get these different alien creatures, and we're jumping ahead a little bit here, but I just want to praise for this film in particular the design of the aliens. And the special effects, for 2001 for a medium budget film, they look great, and the designs are great. What did you think of the designs and stuff?
I'm not that much into like CGI. I don't know as much about that as you, like digital editing and anything, but I thought they held up pretty well. Like if it's a 2001 movie, it could have looked like the Scorpion or something, but they looked passable in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think what helps is that the designs are so unique. They feel like aliens. Like they don't look like they're supposed to be this in between. And that's there's a lot of problems with the evolution in this. As in as with real life. But there's you never see any intermediate stages or anything,
Yeah.
which they gloss over.
And one of my favorite parts of the film is when Orlando Jones's character, he's the other guy. I think his name is Ian in the movie. In the movie,
Ira.
Ira. He tries to get his attention, and because he's coaching a volleyball game, and he's like, "We're gonna get rich off this like discovery, man." And then like they go to the classroom, and they're talking about like paying out a Nobel Prize. Like, do they pay in installments or something?
Yeah.
I thought that was funny, but maybe I jumped ahead. I'm
No,
sorry.
no. I've already. It's all good. But yeah, there are lots of funny jokes. Like another good one is so David Duchovny is a biology teacher, and he gave his class an assignment to write about cells. So like cells in your body, and two of the students seem to have misunderstood this and end up writing about prison cells. Uh, which saying it like that, it doesn't sound very funny, but the way it's done in the film is pretty funny, and that's one of those guys is Ethan Suplay, who you may or may not remember from American History X, My Name is Earl, and a few other things. and he also lost heaps of weight. Um, so he was one of
Good for him,
the
man.
fat brothers. If you saw a picture of him now, he's like shredded now. It's crazy.
Based.
So
I
yeah,
think
good for him.
the th- the thing I liked about that scene is like they still got C minuses, and they
Yes.
acknowledge that academia is so bad now that like they pass anyone.
Yeah. Yeah, that was pretty good. Um, so yeah, at this point, they've realized they've found these aliens in the asteroid, so they decide to take like their classes on a field trip to help them like get more samples, basically. And then when they get there, they've already evolved into these little worms, this alien stuff, and then nothing. I can't really think of. Does anything else happen at that point, or does it then at this point does it go to the military basically?
I think like the cheerleader or volleyball girl or whatever it goes up to talk to Orlando Jones's character, and he's too busy like focused on the discovery.
Yes, and then she points out that they're, oh, why is that one splitting? And then we make the discovery that these creatures reproduce asexually.
Yeah,
Um,
and that's when they try to get the money from that.
yes. But the asexual thing doesn't really come into the film until the very end, basically,
Yeah,
when it becomes like a relevant plot point again. And then it's at this point they go back to the asteroid, I think, is it more or less, and they discover that the military has found it, and now there's like a there's a temporary base has been put there, and they're basically being you know shafted out of this whole project, and they're upset about it. So they meet
yeah,
the general, um, and his like second in command, who's played by Phil Dunphy guy from Modern Family. But the general and his second in command were great. I thought they were really good as your stereotypical, you know, antagonist type character.
yeah. They were keeping tabs on David Duchovny's character, and they hate him essentially.
Mm. Um, and then we also meet Dr. Reed, Julianne Moore. So shouts out to Julianne Moore. Welcome on the show anytime. Um,
Do you still think she's attractive present day?
she's not unattractive.
All right.
And so she's basically this scientist um, who used to work with Ira, David Duchovny, and she's supposed to be like klutzy or something, but she only ever does like one or two klutzy things. They didn't really.
Yeah, they dropped the klutzy like character trait early on. Like she tripped or something a couple times, and that was it.
Yeah, so they didn't really do. Her character was just sort of slightly witty. You know, love interest for the main character.
Yeah, pretty much. And
And she
I
was
think
good. Perfectly serviceable. She had more to her than I'll say this much. She had more going on than Daisy in Mario Bros.
true. And I think I don't. I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but I think my least favorite scene and my least favorite character, for no convenient reason at all, is Sarah Silverman's like scene in this
Yes.
where she like tries to strip in a public diner. That was kind of like to me. I never those characters don't appeal to me. Like in Breaking Bad, I stopped watching it because I didn't like the Skylar character. She was too like she was. You get what I mean. I don't
Yeah,
like those
yeah,
kind
yeah,
of
yeah, yeah,
characters.
yeah. She was, yeah. Sarah that is probably the weakest moment in. That is easily the weakest moment in the film. Um, where they run into Sarah Silverman basically, and this is like David Duchovny's ex girlfriend or something, and then he makes a joke about how she stole some of his clothes, And then so she starts to strip, saying like, "Oh, so you want your clothes back? You want your clothes back?"
And the, and then her cop, who she's like informally dating, just makes her pay because he has to
Yeah,
leave.
that was pretty funny though. Actually, that was kind of based.
Yeah,
But yeah, she was just obnoxious, but not in an enjoyable way. But maybe that's just because I don't like Sarah Silverman. So take that as you
yeah.
may.
I don't. I dislike her for not because she said anything disparaging about Christ. I just don't really like her for any rational reason.
Mm-hmm. Um. Anyway, we don't need to go through all of the plot points. Where what have I got written down here? Duh, duh, duh. Oh, so at this point they've basically they had a court case, and the judge decides, okay, no, you're still not David Duchovny and Orlando Jones, you're still not allowed to get involved with this asteroid, um, because of a variety of different reasons, and it's revealed that David Duchovny used to work for the army, and he made a anthrax vaccine, which made everyone very very sick, and was a failure of a drug basically, and that's why he's now working at a community college.
Yeah, and that's like a whole scene in a courtroom where Julianne Moore's character like destroys him in the courtroom.
Mm. And then Orlando Jones makes a joke like, "Oh, she's so into you," and then he's like, "Didn't you just see what she just said?" And then Orlando Jones is like, "That was just foreplay."
Yeah.
So
I mean, he was right. She did like him.
yeah, that's true. That's true. So at this point, they decide to sneak into the um, like the military
Lab.
base, the lab, because they're like, okay, screw these guys. We're gonna get like a sample of like some of this alien stuff. And so they sneak in dressed as army guys. So David's company is in like an officer's uniform, and I thought that was like a cute little moment when they're sneaking in, and David Company says like, "Pick up that cigarette butt" to the guy, and they just
Yeah.
sort of like sneak through, and
And
then
and
go
then
ahead.
on on the security cameras, there's like a joke, and they're like the night crew's crazy, so like
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
probably
yeah,
just them.
yeah. Um, yeah, it's them. They then get into like hazard suits, or whatever you call them, hazmat suits.
Hazmat.
Um, and they go down this like little elevator to the asteroid, and that's when they're like Orlando Jones is like dancing and making jokes and stuff, which is funny. And then they get down there, and then they there's all this fungus and there's bugs and different creatures, and they've already evolved to this alien group has already evolved to different lots of different stages of whatever you want to call it. Um, and then basically Julianne Moore
Uh,
works out there down there, and comes to chastise them, and then as she's chastising them, a bug slips into Orlando Jones's suit, and then we have the buck breaking scene of the film.
yeah, and then yeah, he essentially gets destroyed, and then he asks for ice cream, and they ask him what flavor, and he says it doesn't matter. It's for my you know what.
It's on my ass. And yeah, that always cracks me up. That was so funny.
Yeah, he got sodomized because he snuck into a lab, and like he had no other penalties. Like they didn't press legal charges on him or anything.
Yeah, basically an alien went up his butt. So
Yeah,
uh, it's at this point that Sean William Scott, the fireman guy, is sort of like brought back into the plot. And he works as a bartender slash waiter at this country club, golf country club place. And this rich guy and this woman, they go out to have like an affair on the green. But then an alien jumps out of the pool and kills him, basically.
yeah, he eats the guy.
And that was good. And I think at this point we can talk a little bit about um, Sean William Scott. I legit don't remember any of these characters' actual names, just the actors. Um,
Yeah,
and I
I
think.
thought his
Go ahead.
I think towards the beginning his character was kind of weak. Like I didn't find the firefighter like him burning that cabin or whatever down that funny. But as the movie progressed, I like the scene in the mall or wherever, whatever, where he's like singing, and I liked the scene where he like just brings in the dead like alien or whatever. Or
Yes. I think again, yeah, he's not too stupid. He's just sort of a bit, whatever. I don't know what the word is. Not naive, but um, he's not like super smart presenting or whatever. He's just like like sort of maybe an average.
he's a midwit.
Yeah, well, maybe slightly below midwit, which is what makes him more enjoyable to watch, I guess.
Yeah.
The general is a midwit.
Yeah, I don't like his. Well, I guess I like his character in the sense that sometimes I like having those kinds of characters, even though just to further the plot, even though I don't like the character itself.
Yeah, and I think yeah, his character. Yeah, and I think this is a good contrast. Is him versus say Sarah Silverman, where it's like you can have an obnoxious or an annoying character, but depending on how they're acted and how they're written, it can work or it can not work basically. So in the case of the general, it still works.
Yeah.
Um, and then yeah, pretty much we can sort of skip ahead, but basically more and more aliens are now like because they discover that where the asteroid is landed in this cave, you know, underneath the whole town, there's this sort of network of caves and crevasses or whatever, and so aliens are popping up everywhere, and we have a little scene where an alien comes out of this lady's laundry and bites her hand, and I thought that it was cool. The design on the tongue of that alien was like a little bird itself.
Yeah, and like they try to shoot the alien, but it dies on its own.
Yeah. Um, and then there's another great scene where an alien is now loose in a shopping mall, and David Duchovny, Orlando Jones, and Sean William Scott all have shotguns.
Dude, as soon as they broke the glass and got the shotguns, the movie got extremely hyped for me.
Yeah, I wish there was more of them like shooting aliens. That would have been cool. But the one scene we get of it is really good.
Yeah.
And one thing I wanted to note, this is not really relevant to anything in particular, but we get a scene of a woman shoplifting. Now, if you pay mild attention during this scene, you'll notice several continuity errors because she has like a whole bunch of clothes on the that she's putting on more and more layers of clothes to hide the clothes she's stealing. And then as the shots change, it's like different what clothes she's got on and what clothes are left on the hook.
I didn't notice that, to be honest, but
I
you're
think I'm
probably
I'm just so autistic when it comes to it. It depends
yeah,
on
you're
whatever. Yeah,
yeah.
I just thought that was interesting. That interested
Uh,
me.
Honestly, like the only continuity error that ever like bothered me was in The Dark Knight Rises when like Batman can get out of the prison and just get to Gotham. Like if it's that big of a continuity error, it bothers me, but like if it's like closed, I probably won't
Yeah,
even notice it.
no, that's not a. I didn't care. I just thought it was.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, and then the dinosaur grabs dinosaur. What do you? Alien dinosaur thing, pterodactyl alien dinosaur, grabs this girl and then is flying around the mall with her. And then the guys, our heroes, are trying to catch it and shoot it. But then Sean William Scott gets the idea, oh, if I sing a lullaby, this will attract it to us. And then so he starts singing, and that was a funny little moment. And then dinosaur comes, and then David Duchovny shoots it basically, and that's a cool scene then. And then go
And
ahead.
then the dinosaur moves again, and they all shoot it in unison.
Yes, yeah, and that's really cool. Them all with the shotguns. So yeah, it would have been nice if there had have been more action scenes like that. Just because it was like that one that we do get is quite well done, but that's not really what the movie is. It's not an action movie. It's more like a sci-fi comedy type thing, I would say, I guess. So
Yeah.
Pretty much at this point, all the characters come back together at the asteroid, and David's company and stuff are saying we need to, you know, we need to deal with this problem. And the general says, okay, let's blow it up. And then David Company's like, okay, but we don't know what effect that will have on the. Will that actually kill the aliens, or what will that do? And then we also get another great character, Dan Aykroyd, as the governor of Arizona.
Yeah, I liked his character.
And I thought he was very funny. And I thought that was a good introduction in the third act, like having this sort of semi cameo character come in. And it also raises the stakes, and it provides a good contrast with the general as well, which I liked. Um, yeah, and at this point they make the discovery pretty much. They get dejected because the general says, okay, you guys are no longer involved, blah blah blah, and so they go back to the community college to sort of lament, okay, maybe things are getting out of control. Are we gonna die, or like are the aliens gonna take over the planet? And they make the discovery that fire actually speeds up the evolution process of these aliens. Or is it speeded up, or like it's unclear, sort of like what exactly it does?
I would know less about it than you.
But basically, they discover that fire um, makes them grow, but and so they're thinking, oh no, the general is going to blow them up with all this napalm, so that's just going to make you know, that's not going to help the situation. And
And then
then we have like one of the most retarded things in the movie, which makes no sense at all.
are you talking about the shirt scene where he like figures out what's wrong or something
Yes,
else?
the shirt scene.
Oh yeah.
So they make the connection that, oh, we're carbon-based life forms, therefore, and arsenic is like this like pattern on the periodic table away from us. These aliens are nitrogen-based, which makes no sense. Um, so therefore, the corresponding element that should be poisonous to them is selenium, which is found in shampoo. Um,
Head and Shoulders.
yeah, and yeah, that's just ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, it is a comedy, but like the amount of ass pull this is like horrendous.
I guess they just like, how did they even come up with this idea? Did they think, oh, shit, like, I just don't know how it was like, oh, what would be a funny thing to shoot the aliens with? Or did they have a head? See, I really should have looked this up. Did they have a Head and Shoulders sponsor? Because I don't know if they did.
It makes sense if they do, but even if they don't, like just to make it more marketable and funny, I guess it wouldn't matter.
Yeah, Head and Shoulders. Yeah, I don't think it was. I'm assuming they must have gotten permission. Oh, and I just noticed the writer is Todd Phillips.
Oh,
Huh. There you go. Of Joker fame. Um, but yeah, and then pretty much they work out Shampoo's gonna kill the aliens, and then they end up having to fight a giant alien, and Orlando Jones gets stuck up its butt for 1 second,
yeah.
and then they
It
kill it.
explodes.
Yeah. Um, yeah. What did you think of the ending?
It was an ass pull, bro. This ending was like, oh, what is going on? It was funny, but like that was it. It was not coherent. There was nothing leading up to it that made it like make any sense. I know it's a comedy, so I can like forgive it in that regard, but it was like pretty. I don't even know if it's underwhelming. It's just like a weird comedy ending.
I liked it because I mean it is extremely dumb, and it does come out of nowhere. This like, oh, selenium shampoo is like what it can defeat them, but
Yeah,
I wouldn't call it like a lazy ending you at all.
yeah. I didn't think it was bad. I just thought it was like out of nowhere.
Yeah. Um. But yeah, I really like this movie. I think structurally, the progression of, okay, there's these aliens, and then as the tension in the film ramps up, the aliens are evolving, and we get to see different sorts of aliens. Like when we see the gorillas, those blue gorillas, I thought that they look cool. Um, yeah, and
Yeah,
the ending, I really like. Just
I,
like
li-
them
I
in the fire truck.
they're just like selling Head and Shoulders at the end.
Yeah,
I liked that part.
yeah. Um, I don't know what else. And what's his face? Sean William Scott becomes a firefighter, an honor like a firefighter just through merit of Dan Aykroyd saying he can be one.
The funny thing about his character is at the beginning, like the cops or the feds tell him he can't leave town, and he like is explaining what happened to the cabin in his car from the asteroid in it. I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah. Um. Yeah, I don't know. There's not too much more really to say about this movie. Um.
I'll just give my final impressions. I enjoyed this film just because, as far as comedy goes, you'll never like. You think evolution, it's going to be paused. This is just like a funny film, very standard. You're not going to find anything like this nowadays. Nowadays, it's going to be like any comedy, any film is going to be really paused. Like you can't enjoy anything, and
Mm.
I really enjoyed it because I thought it would be paused and it wasn't.
Yeah, there's and it's not. I hate the one thing I hate about modern comedies. I mean, first of all the horrible political stuff, but also there's no actual structure. There's no jokes. There's no. It's just like they put the camera there, and then they get two unfunny people to improv for like 10 minutes, and that's just
I
so
th-
painful.
I don't know if I went back to these films I would watch. I would enjoy them, but the last era of comedy I liked was kind of like the Seth Rogen, Jonah Hill, like Pineapple Express, Jump Street like era.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
don't I don't know
That's
if I would enjoy them if I went back to them, but that was like the last time I like was into comedy.
I think Pineapple Express still holds up. Jump Street's still pretty good, but I think that was like 2012 or something. So it's like really, yeah, that is sort of. I mean, do they even make comedy movies anymore?
They probably make some comedy Netflix stuff, but it's not aimed at us
No.
Christians, so
Yeah,
like probably not.
yeah, and that's one thing I miss about the '90s and the early 2000s. Um, was there were big budget comedy movies where there was a lot of stuff going on. Um, what's some other ones? Like what's one off the top of my head? I don't know, like The Mask or um, I'm now blanking. But there were lots of these sort of big, like Tropic Thunder. There were big budget comedy films where there was like actually a lot of production went into it, and there was a lot of stuff that went into it, and then I guess they just don't make any money anymore. So
I
unfortunately.
think my favorite upcoming comedy is Flooded Basement's commentary on Mean Girls. I'm looking very forward to that one.
That will be interesting because I have not watched Mean Girls in a long, 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 long time. So I don't know. It was too good a pairing, Mean Girls and Mean Streets, to pass it off. So, but I have to watch those movies now. So
You're gonna watch a movie that appeals exclusively to women, and I'm going to enjoy that episode because I haven't watched that movie in a long time either.
I mean the thing is, it'll probably be not that bad because it was made like 15 years ago. So
Yeah,
it will be fine. It's basically my prediction. The thing is, anyway, whatever. We're not here to talk about Mean Girls. We're here to talk about evolution.
Oh,
Uh, Go
how
ahead.
did you feel about this? The comedy, the scary movie movies. Did you like any of them? Did you hate all of them?
I loved all of them except for the latest one. The fifth one sucks. But
What about
one, two, three, four are great.
super? What about superhero movie like the one with Drake Bell?
Sucks. Epic movie suck. Yeah, it's basically the scary movies are good. Those other ones like date movie, etc., etc. They have some moments that are okay, but compared to the scary movies, they suck. They are horrible. But yeah, scary movie. I'd say Scary Movie 3 might be my favorite, or three, or probably 3 is the best one. Then 4, then number 1, then 2 is the weakest. If we're going by. But I would be love to talk about them one day. Actually, because they are classics from when I was a kid. Absolute
Yeah,
classics.
I actually didn't get to watch them because my parents were more which it's good. They were more not willing to let me watch things like that. Like I wasn't allowed to watch South Park. I just watched it like in secret when I was in fourth grade, and I don't even like that show. So it was probably a good thing that they didn't let me watch it.
um, do you have anything else to say about Evolution?
I just thought it was good, and that's all I would recommend it, and that's all I have to say.
Yeah, I think if you have it downloaded or have it available to you, and then on a day where you're like, oh, what do I watch? I don't really feel like watching some serious Kino. I just want something lighthearted that I've never seen before. Well, here you go, Evolution. It's it's got. I would say this is a movie. It's got a little something for everyone.
Agreed.
Um, Mario Bros. I mean, I don't know which one I would say is. I would just
I
have.
I
I
I
think
clearly liked Mario Bros. More, man. That one was fun all the way through, in my opinion. And Evolution, like the peak was the shotgun scene. I liked all of it, but like it wasn't as fun as Mario, in my opinion.
I think it's just the nostalgia. It just makes me prefer Evolution. Also, I really like David Duchovny. So
Uh, I think you're just simping for Julianne Moore. To be honest, I'm gonna have to call you out on that.
well, maybe, possibly. I won't fully deny it. Do I have anything else written down? No.
I think my notes are
Oh
done
wait,
too.
no, I do
So,
have one thing, where they he says. So at one point, the army steals all the info they have at their lab, and then David Duchovny says, "They took all our data and our JPEG files."
oh yeah, and it had like the cheerleader files from the black dude or
Yeah,
whatever.
it's like all those girls were over 18.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. But like that's the thing. The movie presents it as like the black guy is reluctant, but he did have the files.
Yeah. Anyway, um, yeah, I think that's the two movies discussed.
All right, you want to bring this to a close?
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. I hope we successfully debunked evolution today. Um, two
Glad I could
movies,
help.
two movies, and for once, both decent movies, both good movies, both movies that we would recommend unequivocally. I would say there's no real caveats to either of them. Um, yeah, this is a nice light-hearted episode of Flooded Cinema, which is good every now and then. I don't have to watch some Japanese horror film or something, but it was good fun. Thank you so much for coming on Ikari at the Ikari group on Twitter. Go make sure to go follow him. Um,
Thank you for having me on. This is the last time there will be a diversity hire on, so enjoy it.
yes, yes. Yeah. Yeah, well, thank you everyone for listening. I hope you enjoyed our discussion of these two films. And I'll see you next time. I think in a few days. We'll see. But yeah, look forward to Mean Girls, and also the Scorsese film Mean Streets at some time next week. But there'll be a couple episodes in between. But that will be a highlight for sure. Anyway, thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed the stream, everyone.
See ya.